Because those are pretty special words.
They're the most three special words that I know. To say but completely wipes it out.
Absolutely. Well, I've always been, we're talking with Ray Bechard about an article that he recently wrote on the Good Men Project. Mm-hmm. Good Man or Good Men?
GoodMenProject.com.
Good Men.
Yeah.
Project.com. I've always thought, Ray, that people in general, regardless of the gender, but very true for women, make life a lot more complicated than we need to. We have hormones, we have emotions, we just, we sometimes can be our own worst enemies. Mm-hmm. And in relationships, thinking about something you mentioned a moment ago, it's so simple to make the man in your life feel good, feel wanted in terms of giving them compliments, saying nice things. I know with men that goes miles.
Yeah, it really does.
It's very simple to do, but I don't think we women do it often enough.
And, I can get into hot water here talking about this, but I really want to make sure that I did write the other article about the things that men do wrong. But I do hear a lot of women, when they go out with each other, they go, girls, not your girls' night out, but other girls' night outs, they get together for drinks. Women are very social. And they do end up
we talk
many times talking about the relationship they're in, far more than probably men do.
Yes.
And many times it's a very negative reflection on men in general, or the particular man they're with. And then they go home to that man with this sort of, this guile, this revved up sort of, that guy. And he can read that attitude, and there's very little as positive is going to come from those negative things that are stirred up. And yes, you need to vent, you need to talk to friends, you need to do that, but there's really no end to that conversation. Okay, you don't like this about him, you don't like that about him. Why are you talking to me about it? Why not talk to him about it? Why not go have a third person in the room and talk out these issues with people, which is tremendously helpful.
But you do realize, Ray.
Go ahead.
And I'm sure you do realize that women, unlike men, need to vent.
Yes.
And we don't expect anything to change. We don't often even vent with our boyfriends or husbands, because what do they do in those situations? They try to correct it.
They try to fix it.
They try to fix it, which is wonderful, and we don't want that. We just need to vent.
I understand that. I understand.
Period.
And I've looked at that for so long, is that, and I've heard women say, oh, every time I talk to him, he wants to do something to fix it or fix me. Well, I understand that's not what women need. However, that is what men are hardwired to do.
Absolutely.
We are hardwired to just do. So if we know that, we have to, as men, understand that when you share a problem with us, the problem we need to deal with is that you need to be listened to. That's the problem we need to deal with. And that's a really difficult thing for men to learn to listen to.
Ray, what kind of feedback are you getting?
It's all over the place. I mean, some are, most of it is people going through the rules and saying, I had this happen to me, or this happened to me. But it's mostly been positive, which was nice. I really didn't think it would be as positive as it has been. But people are coming up and saying, wow, you really hit the nail on the head. I've shared that with a friend of mine who really needs to read it. And sometimes I think that friend is them. But, it's been shared on thousands of times. It's been read tens of thousands of times. It's hard to tell, where it's really trending. But I was a little bit surprised at the positive reaction it got. So I hit a nerve somewhere.
Oh, absolutely. Well, one of the reasons, a couple reasons. You're a very good writer, so it's very well written. And it's on a subject that is so darn relatable.
It is. Everyone is mostly everyone is in some sort of relationship. And in this era, which is changing so quickly, where you have different dynamics between men and women, and so many different things are affecting us now that weren't even 20, 30 years ago or in a previous generation. There are, intimacy differences now, expectations. There are, of course, breadwinning differences now, and women, have just been shown statistically smarter than men. There are more women in college than men ever before. So you've got these very different shifting dynamics. But at the very basic of everything, we're still men, we're still women. We've still got all this.
Yeah, and isn't it interesting? Here we are in the year 2012, and there have been great advances in most facets of our life in terms of research and medicine and health, but there are still so many darn questions when it comes to relationships between men and women. I'm not sure we've progressed an awful lot in that regard. Isn't that just interesting?
And I think a lot of it is habit. We learn relationships from watching our parents. If we didn't have a traditional family, then how did we learn how? And we're talking about men and women relationships now. How did we learn how to do that? And some people just never saw it. My parents were divorced when I was younger. I really never saw a working relationship. So how did I know how to do one? And you stumble along, and then you create bad habits, and then you just repeat, and things become familiar. And, the old saying, we don't know what we do what we know.
That's right.
It's just that familiarity, we repeat the pattern over and over and over again. And I do mention that in the article is if you want it to not work next time, just don't learn anything. Don't get help.
Keep doing the same thing.
Yeah, just over and over and keep going back and forth and letting pride get in the way. Go ahead.
So this would be an amazing article for, and then we'll talk about your second article in just a minute, but how to lose a guy, 15 ways how to lose a guy forever. I think we should all read it. We should definitely read it if we are involved with a man, whether it's dating or even if we're married, because it's so insightful in terms of what is going to make the relationship go in a positive direction or not.
Exactly. And I think many of these things really point to the fact that as both men and women, what we have to do is go into a relationship not looking first to what am I going to get from this relationship. That sort of dooms it from the very beginning. I've heard so many people say, well, they're not giving me what I want. Okay. What do you want from a relationship? They explain that very, very well. Here's what I want from a relationship, A, B, C, D, E, and F, and it goes all the way down, big list. Okay, what specifically are you going to give into the relationship to that other person? And they stare at you, and then they get mad because they have never even considered that question. What is the investment I'm going to make in a relationship, and where on earth do you expect to get a payback, what I'm going to get from a relationship, without investing anything into it? So here we've got some things in this article about what you could invest. And the one you asked about feedback earlier, one of the pushbacks is, well, I'm not going to do that because he's not going to do this. Or, I'm not going to do that because. So there's these reasons or excuses. And many times it's pride, or they're not looking, or there's like a payback that's not going to happen. So, gosh, you're doing this out of love.
Exactly.
And if you treat a person lovingly, that is going to become a loving person to you.
One of a sentence that and I mentioned this on the show just recently, that I remember hearing or reading, I don't think I made it up, but I don't know where it came from, 30 years ago, and I remind myself of this all the time in a relationship, I would rather be happy than right.
Oh my gosh. So many
Isn't that a
times
good one?
It's a phenomenal one.
I'd rather be happy than right. So let's take the ego off the plate rather than trying so hard, putting so much energy into proving ourselves right and the other person wrong. I'd rather be happy
so hard
or right.
for men to do is to put the ego aside. And I think now with women finding, getting a stronger place in our society, in our culture and relationships, which they have to have, they now have that long-deserved ego that they should have. But again, you've got these two egos clashing. We watch Mad Men, and you see the guys go, well, I'm putting my foot down. That's the end of the discussion. And it is. It's like, we look at it now and go, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
We laugh out loud now
but
at
the
that.
pride, I remember one time I was riding bicycles, this is years and years ago, with a young lady friend, and we're on Block Island. And she was from Texas, so she had never been there before. We were on these roads, and she said, well, wait, which way is the water? And I said, I shouldn't have, but I said, we're on an island, just point. That's where the water is. So I should have said, well, I think if we go this way, it'll be right, but, we can go, it'll be lovely wherever we go. But that's what happens. You just get this pride in the way, and then they're only worried about...
Good comeback in that situation, Ray.
They're only worried about winning and being correct. And if you can just say to a person, okay, how should we have this conversation end?
Communication.
What's the best way we can get this conversation to end for us both? But you've got two tempers flared, two egos going at each other. And
I'd rather be happy than right. Let's remember those words. They are powerful ones. Ray Bechard. So you need to come back and talk about the second article in terms of how to lose a woman. This is 15 ways to how to lose a guy forever. Give the website again one more time for where folks can read it.
Sure, it's goodmenproject.com. It's a great website.
Real quickly, when you started writing this article, did you know you would write the follow-up, or did that come to you? So that was always the plan.
It really was always the plan. I've got more to come, but I thought there's no way I'm going to get away with just writing this one and not write the other one. So.